Hello and welcome to the Malaysian Grand Prix podcast with myself, Manish Patel.
Now, heavy rain was predicted at the Grand Prix itself, but it never came, and the Red Bull of Sebastian Vettel yet again came out on top. After a close qualifying session, Vettel edged Lewis Hamilton out to take pole, and on race day, Vettel once again led from the front and took the checkered flag to make it 2 out of 2. Jenson Button finished the race second, and Renault's Nick Heidfeld put his Australian misery behind him by finishing the race in third. And I'm pleased to have been joined once again by Scratch Radio's Paul Hadsley. Paul, even though Vettel did come out on top in the race, he certainly was made to work hard for his pole position on Saturday.
He was, yes. That was slightly encouraging. I mean, I'm slightly discouraged by his performance, his domination so far this year. But now Saturday there was a small glimmer of hope that Lewis Hamilton could just snatch pole. But of course, he had Vettel put in the perfect lap, and yeah, there he was on pole again. What can we do about him? Is he turning into the new Schumacher? Is this 2004, 2002 all over again? We'll see.
And like you said, Paul, he put in a great lap when it mattered.
Yes, I mean that's what the advantage he has this year is. He's got the confidence of the fastest car. He knows as long as he relaxes and doesn't make any mistakes, he's got a great chance of pole. The others have to kind of hustle their machines and are more likely to go over the limit. He is going to be sitting there, not even close to the limit, and still manage to go fastest. So, how fast will this car go when he's truly pushed? We don't know, but I'm worried.
Well, in the race, he never really looked on the back foot, although both McLaren drivers, Lewis and Jenson, did keep him honest.
Yes, I mean, it was an interesting race. I mean, it wasn't, with all the pit stops and everything, it wasn't completely done like Australia. It was like, as soon as he's through the first corner, it's like, yeah, he's won. But it wasn't complete. It was a bit in doubt. I mean, I still would have put all my money on him before the race, because fastest car on pole and all that. And even with the rain, which I wasn't even, cynically old me, I don't believe there's rain till I see it. The Formula One way of like predicting rain is starting for China now. It's like, it's going to be raining. It's like, yeah, just wait till the race. We'll see what race morning brings. But yeah, apart from the threat of rain, I thought, yeah, with Button, tyres, management, I thought he could get there, but I still thought Vettel was pacing, so he could have stepped it up if he needed to.
And Vettel will be heading to China, hoping to make it 3 out of 3.
Yes, I know. What can we do about him, guys? I mean, we thought in the off season, I think we did a prediction that we was trying to restore stuff, but yeah, we thought that Ferrari were the second team and McLaren were way back. Now McLaren are the ones that are fighting Red Bull, and we need to find a way of stopping them. Basically,
is Vettel beatable?
He is, if Webber raises his game, because don't forget there's an identical car out there. But I'm very worried. I'm sure Webber's coming up next, but I'm very worried. We're watching a P45 being written at 200 miles an hour. That's what I'm worried about with Webber.
As for Webber, yeah. How would you assess his weekend?
What is it? What is going on with that car? It can't be that is it bad driver? Is it bad car? There can't be that. Vettel's having a perfect season, poles, wins. They have to say that's the true speed of the car. If that's the true speed of the car, Webber should be, if not challenging him, hustling him, then finishing second every race. Now he's had 2 poor weekends, 2 bad starts. And yes, his performance, he dragged himself up the order and he recovered, but he shouldn't be in that position where he's behind the McLarens, or one McLaren, and behind, so far down the field. And then, what was he, 10th after the first corner?
Yes.
Is the pressure getting to him? Is this his final year at the top? It's because I heard he's on a rolling 1-year contract, so he can leave at any time. So, as I say, is this the end of Webber? Or if he can bounce back now, then he's still got, obviously it's only 2 races. It's only, how many races still to go? 17, I think. So he can obviously bounce back and still win the title. It's still early days, but at the moment it's not looking good at all for Webber. It's looking, as I say, like it's curtains at the end of the season, at least for Red Bull. Him in Red Bull, should I say.
For Webber, he definitely needs a win now, doesn't he?
He definitely needs to pull a Vettel, I think is Anu saying. He needs to dominate the weekend the way Vettel has been. Fastest in qualifying, first in the race. It's not good enough at the minute. As I say, Vettel's showing the true potential of that car. And yes, Webber did great overtaking. We did like his round the outside move, gave him the overtaker of the race. I can't remember if it was on now, but is it on?
I know he had a fair few battles with Kamui Kobayashi.
Our favourite, everyone's favourite in Formula One at the moment. Because this is what people are saying. Like, if Webber does leave, will Kobayashi or someone like that take his place? And I'm saying no. I don't want Kobayashi in a Red Bull starting from the front. What good's that? If he does, we'll have to write a clause in his contract saying, okay, you can race for Red Bull, but you have to do the Xbox thing and start from the back every race. Forget qualifying, you start from the rear of the grid. We'll see some overtaking, thank you, Kamal. But yes, everyone's star.
But the Australian, to be fair to him, he did make a poor start to the race, but did well to finish fourth in the end.
Yes, as I say, great overtaking. We did enjoy the amount of overtaking in the race yesterday. But as I say, I mean, it's down his limitation. He shouldn't be having to do that, if you know what I mean. He should just be, if not, fighting for the win. If not coming second, there should be 1-2s. I think McLaren are right up there in this Constructors' Championship because they're more consistent. But yes, Vettel is dominating the race, but the second car has been nowhere, and this is not right. There should be 2 equal cars.
Well, in Australia, it was Lewis Hamilton who was the happier of the 2 McLaren drivers at the end of the weekend, but this weekend in Malaysia saw Jenson Button get the better of his teammate, and the 2009 world champion finished Sunday's race in second. Cracking result for Jenson.
Brilliant. It was always one. It was a complete mirror image for McLaren of Australia. One got a penalty, and the other came second. It swapped ground completely. But yeah, great result for Jenson. No one really saw him come. He sort of stealthed his way there with his legendary. And I thought it was a bit of a cliche in the off season when these rules came out saying, "Oh yes, Jenson's great on his tyres. These rules are going to favour him." I was like, yeah, everyone says that. This bit's done. He's been compared to Prost and Lewis Hamilton to Senna, and all the cliches we heard in the off season. But in the end of the day, it came good. He looked after his tyres. He drove a sensible race, overtook when he had to, managed his tyres when he had to, and I think he went like 5 laps longer on his tyres than anyone else.
Yes, that's
right. So that is again playing to his strengths. So it wasn't just a cliche. It's a cliche that most cliches are true, but sometimes they have an element of truth to them.
And just exactly what he needed after Australia.
Yes, I mean, Australia wasn't too bad a performance. He got the bad start and he's trying to recover, and then the whole penalty thing. Let's not go down that road. But he finished ahead of Hamilton, so pretty much even Stevens there. So there can be no rivalry there, even though it's the calmest team in Formula One, the calmest rivalry. But yeah, he finished ahead of Hamilton. He finished second. He was closing up at Vettel at the end, but only blatantly because Vettel had backed off. But we need McLaren to step up a gear and fight for the wins now, not just a second.
Well, that result saw Button leapfrog Lewis into second in the drivers' standings. For Lewis, it was a weekend that started well but ended in disappointment.
Yes, it looked like for once, after practice and especially qualifying, that McLaren was right up there. But were Red Bull sandbagging again? I don't know. It looked like Lewis had a chance, and I predicted, we didn't hear the show yesterday, there was no show, I do apologise to our loyal fans, but I did predict that it would be checkers or wreckers, as they say in NASCAR. Lewis would not be taking any nonsense into turn 1, and he will be heading straight for the inside like Vettel did to Webber last year. And if he got through, great. If he didn't, then they'll both be out. I didn't see I didn't see Vettel leading. That was just my prediction. Shows how much I know. Where did the Renaults come from? And they kind of blocked that. But yeah, so I thought more determined Lewis Hamilton off the line, but he went onto hard tyres when no one else did, and I think that ruined his race. He ended up being slow, then getting damaged, being slower, and then just falling back through the field, and then getting a penalty for something that's, I imagine, what was that? I don't know. It wasn't on TV, so.
And just coming on to that, just when it couldn't get any worse, him and Alonso were given 20-second penalties.
I know. It was the incident. It wasn't for the incident when they hit each other.
Yes,
which
that's
I thought
right.
was a nice mirror of when was it? Oh, sorry. Pardon me. When it was a nice mirror of, was it Bahrain 2008? When Alonso went up the back of Hamilton. No, Hamilton went up the back of Alonso, sorry.
Yes.
And everyone said, oh, that's rubbish. He must have lifted off the gas, Yes, that's so when it was a nice mirror. So Alonso basically was understeering around the corner, trying to jink out, but didn't get out in time. But that was not what they were penalised for, I think. I think Alonso was penalised for that, but Hamilton was penalised for some weaving we saw off. And it's kind of like it had to penalise one, let's give the other a penalty, sort of make it equal. But in the end of the day, he only lost one place, and I don't think the difference between 7th and 8th gives a damn for Lewis Hamilton. It's all about the big points.
Well, after a miserable Australian Grand Prix, Nick Heidfeld was back at his best and finished Sunday's race in third. This was Renault's second podium of the season, and both Heidfeld and Petrov got off to flyers in the race, didn't they?
I see what you did there, flyers. You could tie that into what happened later, but yes. That was bizarre. No one expected that. Renaults came from, I would say nowhere, they were on the grid, but that was brilliant, and it did hamper Lewis Hamilton's race, having a Renault between. He saw his determination around the outside of turn 1 and 2 to get past that Renault. He's like, you're not getting in the way, and then he just like edged out wide, and suddenly he had a Renault in front of him. That ruined basically any chance he had of shadowing Vettel. But for Renault, great, that's what they're supposed to do, not there to do any favours for the bigger teams. This car is something special this year. It's just, it makes me a little bit sad that Robert Kubica's not in that
Absolutely.
team to benefit, because obviously he put a lot of the hard work in over the testing and such. So let's hope they keep the performance for next year when he can come back. But yeah, great performance from both Renault drivers.
And like Button, Heidfeld bounced back in fine style after what happened in Australia.
Yeah, that's true actually. A lot of people had a lot to prove. I mean, you say Webber didn't, but apart from that, everyone else who had a bad Australia had a good Malaysia. Great performance from Heidfeld. Finished for a start. Kept it on the ground. But yeah, that was an amazing start. I mean, you have to look into their curves and see if they've got a special way of doing it. I think it's like, you remember there used to be the Benetton team. You remember when traction control first came in? It used to be the Benetton team that went and got 2 grid spots every race. So maybe they've got some of them tricks from the old days.
Well, it was a case of damage limitation for Ferrari, as Felipe Massa finished the race in 5th and Fernando Alonso came home in 6th. Even though Alonso is 30 points behind Vettel in the driver's standings, Fernando, he won't be worried at this stage, will he? No, I mean, just how much did we laugh at him last year? My co-host Miller, he did make a point. We did laugh at him last year when he got to Silverstone. He said, "I'm still in the drivers' championship," and we're like, "You're like 5th, come on." But then he managed to pull it back through consistency and consistent wins. Yeah, it's basically everyone still has a chance at the championship. The teams can improve. We're still stuck in the flyaway races, if you know what I mean. The big step in improvements, and usually big improvements, come to the first European race, which is Turkey this year. I don't know, it's sort of on the border, isn't it? But yeah, so hopefully he's waiting on developments. At the moment, he's got no weapons to fight Red Bull, and he's just going to, he got a penalty. He's probably just going to write this off as a bad weekend and move on and try and perform better in China. A better weekend for Massa, though.
Yeah, it's nice. It's encouraging to see some of the good guys. There's some guys you know performs, and some guys you have sympathy for. And as soon as his accident happened, everyone has sympathy for Massa, I think. And yeah, it's nice to see him up there and fighting and not pulling over, because it was ahead of Alonso at some point, and we're thinking, but no, it's too early for that sort of nonsense.
Well, it proved to be another disappointing weekend for Mercedes, as Nico Rosberg finished outside the points and Michael Schumacher could only finish the race in 9th. Kamui Kobayashi picked up Sauber's first points of the 2011 season after finishing the race in 7th, thanks to Hamilton's penalty. Good solid performance from him, and he had a number of battles with Mark Webber.
Oh, that was fun. I mean, this is with a lot of overtaking yesterday, which is the good part. The bad part was too many pit stops, but Kobayashi's everyone's, just because he's someone, I think, did a statistic, he's done more overtaking in his 2 and a bit years now in Formula 1 than most people have in their entire career. Barrichello, maybe. But yeah, he's just every time he's on camera, something exciting is going to happen. He's like Montoya in the old days. Every time he's on camera, he's either going to do a great manoeuvre or just be exciting and throw it off the road. Kobayashi, great performance, and I'm looking forward to watching it on the onboard feed again, because it mainly sat on his car, and then that was crazy. It was great.
And also, finally, many congratulations to Force India's Paul Di Resta after the Scotsman finishing points for the second consecutive race.
Yes, and this time you can say more genuine, because he only got points. Well, points are points, but he got it yesterday, last race through disqualification of the Saubers. But this time, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, rookie's getting points. Well done. And that's probably not what he expected. He expected to be a learning. He's way ahead of his teammate in qualifying, I believe. And yeah, he's a great performance. Not stellar. Not the TV cameras have a habit of not showing the lower level teams, but he's learning, he's playing his trade. Obviously he's a champion in DTM and lower level series, so he knows how to bring it home. So yeah, great performance from Paul.
Just finally, looking at the Chinese Grand Prix now, who's on the back foot in your opinion?
Well, Webber is going to be either put in another bad performance or spring back to another domination. So it could be Webber's dominating the way Vettel has, just because he needs to prove it to himself, to everyone else. On the back foot, McLaren need to keep the momentum they got, just edge ever closer. Ferrari may edge back, and I think they are going backwards, surprisingly, in their performance. I can see it being a tight race. It's been raining there last 2 years, so cross your fingers, but I'm hoping it's going to be, as each race goes on, we're getting closer and closer, and maybe someone else sits on pole and gives Vettel a little run for his money and maybe proves he can overtake for once.
Well, Paul, thank you very much for coming in.
To keep up to date with the latest Formula 1 news, visit www.formula1fancast.com.